It's baby metal. I thought you might ask. As someone who's moving to a new country on a completely different continent, I've been trying to research all of the things I will no longer have available to me. Now, I'm not including any food because that's a huge list on its own, and I'm going to cover that on my next hike. There's also going to be a bunch of things we're going to gain that we don't have access to in the US, so this list is not meant to be a reason to not move. It's just an example of what to expect. Not every item on this list is something good, so having them gone from the country you want to move to is actually a good thing. Also, the items I found are things that are uncommon in Europe, but the specific country you want to move to might be different. There are also specialty stores that sell American goods in many European countries, but they usually focus on food. Speaking of food though, the first thing we'll lose when we leave the US is access to 24-hour shopping. In the US, there are fast food restaurants, convenience stores, and grocery stores that all stay open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is not the case in Europe. Businesses generally open at 8 or 9 a.m. and close at 7 or 8 p.m. The only exception I could find was a handful of gas stations in the cities, but not even all gas stations are open 24 hours. Sometimes I'll wake up early, and if I can't get back to sleep, I can run down to the 7-Eleven, grab a coffee, and start working. But after we move, I'm gonna have to make sure I have the coffee maker set up for my early morning work sessions. This also leads to another common American shopping experience, Walmart and Target. These stores, which can also be open 24 hours depending on where you live, are not available in Europe. It's said that the equivalent to Target in the Netherlands is Hema. It's smaller, but it carries kitchen goods that are said to be cheaper and of better quality. I don't really use Walmart or Target. I get my 5-gallon water bottles for our water cooler at Walmart, and I don't go to the Target in my area because they keep it extremely understaffed. Like they literally only have a self-checkout lane open and there's a line halfway across the store to check out. Speaking of retail shopping, another thing you don't see in Europe is people wearing their country's flag as their clothing. It's actually thought to be very disrespectful, and the US Code for the treatment of the flag specifically states that it should, quote, never be used as wearing apparel, bedding, or drapery. It also says that the US flag should never be used for advertising, which also seems to be ignored quite often. I find the raw Americans who also go around disrespecting the flag by wearing it as underwear hard to take seriously when they come and criticize me for wanting to leave the country. Just saying. Of course, those are the same people who own the most of the next item on the list, guns. Most European countries have gun laws that make it hard to own a firearm. Because of it, the US has 7.5 times more gun deaths per capita than all of Europe. The Netherlands has strict gun laws and is number 17 of all countries with the least amount of gun-related deaths. The US is in the top 10 for the most. I'm sorry if you love your guns, but these are facts. If we want to continue on the list of things we'll be glad to get rid of after our move, drug commercials are also high on the list. Anytime I turn on the television, every commercial break has at least one commercial for some drug they're telling you that you might need. According to them, instead of going to the doctor and having a trained medical professional tell me how to best treat my ailment, I should go to the doctor and tell them I saw a random medication commercial on TV that I might need. And instead of being motivated to actually help me get healthier like the doctor is, they're motivated to sell more products. So the commercial lists a bunch of vague symptoms in order to get me to think I need the drug they're selling. It's absolutely bonkers that this type of thing is legal. It's not in most places outside of the US. That's because the US prioritizes corporate profits over their own citizens' well-being. That's one of the other main reasons we're leaving. It kind of ties in with the billboard advertising on highways. European countries outlaw this because it can be distracting to drivers, which makes perfect sense. In America, we not only have billboards on highways, we have some that flash, change colors, and have screens that literally play television commercials. We won't be missing out on those much either. There are quite a few things that we will lose, but aren't necessarily a big negative. They're more benign things that we really don't think about much. Tipping isn't a thing in Europe, and I guess it's a product of allowing employees to be underpaid in a lot of positions, but it's been a part of my life for so long it's not really something I think about. They don't really have garbage disposals in Europe. I guess they're said to have a negative environmental impact, but again, I've lived in very few houses without one, so it's something that I've never put much thought into. I don't think there's a lot of controversy surrounding the imperial measuring system outside of the fact that the metric system seems much more logical. It is going to be pretty hard for me to get used to, though, since I spent decades working as a carpenter. The imperial system is ingrained into my brain. I even have a tattoo of a tape measure on my arm with inches on it. Not that I care, it's a representation of my time as a carpenter. Air conditioning is something that isn't common in Europe either. It's everywhere in the US now. Even as a builder in Washington state, we were pretty much adding AC to every house we worked on. It seems that Americans have gotten to the point where they can't deal with any uncomfortableness. The place we live in Southern California now is the first place I've ever lived in with AC, so I'm used to just using fans and opening windows in the summer. I'm glad we have AC here, especially for the upcoming summer, but I'm fine without it, especially if we live in a more northern area like the Netherlands. There are certain holidays that we will lose after we move as well, the biggest probably being Independence Day and Thanksgiving. I think my family enjoys Thanksgiving just because there's a lot of food and treats, but we don't really celebrate it for its meaning. I think it's a shame how the Native Americans were treated during the colonization of North and South America and have a hard time celebrating it. I understand the reason for celebrating Independence Day, but it really has become more of a nuisance than anything else. For weeks leading up to the holiday, people are lighting fireworks and literally shooting guns in the air. Then after the holiday, the streets are littered with garbage. It seems like a weird way to celebrate your country. I personally think we have too many holidays in the US, most of which were manufactured solely to sell crap. I can live with a few less. I've never been a sports guy. I got into music instead of sports when I was younger and I just never got sports. So for me, the lack of American football will be no problem. My kids like what we call soccer, and maybe we'll start watching some of that over there. Go Ajax. I don't know. Sports was just never something that took hold with me. There aren't high school and college sports in Europe either, which I find relieving. I think some sports fans can get a little out of hand, and that's all over the world, but having those people be parents at a high school sporting event is just sad. Speaking of sporting events though, red Solo cups aren't a thing in Europe. These are common drinking receptacles for tailgating parties and, well, all parties really. A whole drinking game was developed using red Solo cups. They gained popularity due to Americans having keggers that required some sort of disposable cup. Most European countries frown upon the high level of disposable products that get used in the US, so these cups never really hit it big outside of the States. I've read that Europeans don't really have parties with kegs, and when there are drinks served at parties, they generally use glasses. What animals. One obscure thing that came up in my research is that Europeans don't have large gaps in bathroom stalls. If you ever go into a public bathroom in the US, you'll notice that you can sometimes see the person in the stall as you walk by, because there's a good half-inch to 1-inch gap between the stall and the door. This is why I generally just look down at the floor when I'm walking through a public bathroom. I guess this practice is not acceptable in public bathrooms in Europe, which seems perfectly understandable. Maybe this is why there are people who are overly concerned with which gender is in their assigned bathroom. But my answer to that problem is simple. Just mind your own business. The last two items on the list I will definitely miss, though they won't necessarily affect my life. Yellow school buses are an exclusively American thing. The reason is because the color school bus yellow was formulated specifically for school buses in 1939, when a uniform school bus design was established in the US. The specific shade of yellow was determined to be highly visible, and the black lettering on it was easy to read in darker conditions. The color is being adopted in some parts of the UK, and it was used in Santiago, Chile between the years of 1992 and 2007. Germany and Sweden have used a similar color over the years for postal vehicles. I think making the school buses a specific color to enhance visibility is a great idea and should be used throughout the world more. The last one will make many people think I'm crazy, but I will miss the animals. We have such a diverse collection of animals here that includes bears, mountain lions, coyotes, bison, moose, snakes, lizards, and raccoons. In my hiking video, there were people who were surprised that we Americans just go out and walk around in the same place as bears and mountain lions, but it's just normal. It's cool to go out and see a bear or a bison out in a forest or a field. Of course, you don't want to get up close to one, but it's not uncommon to see them far off. Other smaller wildlife will come right up to your house and you can look out your window and see raccoons and coyotes just chilling in your yard. I find that cool, but I'm fine leaving that behind. I should clarify that this item pertains more to Central Europe, as there are large predators in Northern and Southern Europe. The Netherlands doesn't have any large predators, and I've been told that the badger is the largest common predator, with the wolf being listed as having been spotted near the German border starting in 2015. The good news is that there will be a whole bunch of new animals that we haven't seen that we get to experience. So as much as I will miss my bears and mountain lions, I will be happy to see hedgehogs and red squirrels, animals that we don't have here. And don't worry, my family and I are well aware of the dangers of wild animals, no matter how small they are, and always keep our distance. If you know of anything that's common in the US that you think I'll miss in the Netherlands, leave it in the comments. If you have any other questions about me personally or about my upcoming move, you can also leave them in the comments. If you like this channel, hit subscribe and you can continue on this journey with me. Thanks so much, and be safe.